Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining Laura with See Italy Travel, where we build remarkable itineraries that give you a world of clients. We have decided to start webinar series for different regions of Italy. And we have decided to start with the region of Piedmont. It is a very dear region to me because that's where I was born and raised, and that's where my heart is. Obviously, I love Italy because that's my country, but the region of Piedmont is what really brings me joy. So, let me tell you a little bit about this particular webinar. Okay, we are divided in three sections: hear and see, taste and smell, and then really try firsthand the region. And that's something that we will be talking about at the end. So let's dive in and let's concentrate on the first part, which is hear and see. Piedmont. Who are the people of Piedmont? The people of Piedmont are hardworking people. And it is true all over Italy because that's how the culture is. We work hard, we save money because we always want to have dollars in our bank account no matter what. That's like a security. That's what we were taught for many, many years. But the people of Piedmont have this impression about themselves. If you ask somebody from the South how the Northerners are, and if you ask them especially how the people of Piedmont are, they will tell you that they're hardworking people. It is true, but what they don't know, because we don't share it, is that we are also people that like to have fun. We're people that like to enjoy the that like to enjoy the land, that like to enjoy everything that there is about having fun after work. So we love wine. We don't get drunk with it. We love culture. We love where we come from. We love everything about the history of the region. And we also love traditions and festivals. We love the outdoors, so much so that in the winter especially, we leave the towns and go to the mountains for skiing, snowshoeing, and everything that is alpine. So every person in this region definitely subscribe to this philosophy. No matter what their background is, they care about how their guests feel. So if we have somebody over, we really want to make sure that they have the best of times. We're not the most outgoing people because we're reserved. Due to the weather, we've always lived indoors in the winter, and in the summer, we try not to get out until it's evening or early mornings. So we don't tend to be, or to look actually, very hospitable, but we really, really are. Some people from other regions might also say that we are technocrats, but it is a misunderstanding again. We devote time for work, but also pleasures from life. Again, we have some of the best wines in the world. Our fields are full of vegetables, fruits, nuts. We do one of the best roasting in Italy and in the world, the roasting of coffee. Lavazza, which is one of the main producers of coffee in Italy, is in the city of Turin. And the people of this region do not go out of their way to beat their own drums. This is why Piedmont remains one of the great undiscovered regions for the gourmet traveler in Italy. But hopefully today we are going to be explaining to you a little bit more about it, and hopefully you will send your clients to it so that they can discover more about it. Let's dive in. Where is Piedmont? Piedmont is on the northern western side of Italy. We are bordered with the country of France and Switzerland. We're bordered by the regions of Lombardia, where Milan is, as well as Liguria, where Genoa and the Cinque Terre are located. So if you go, for example, in the northern part of Piedmont, they feel more like Milanese. They feel more they belong to Milan. If you go in the southern part, they're more stingy with their money, they're more closed in, and they feel more belonging to the region of Liguria. How do you get to Piedmont? You get to Piedmont in several ways. There is the airport, the European airport of Turin. And by European, I mean that there are no international flights coming into that airport, only European flights. We also have another smaller airport, which I'm going to point out with my mouse, and it's the airport of Cuneo, where low-cost airlines like Ryanair and EasyJet fly into. We have very good trains, high-speed trains that go into the city of Turin. We have regional trains that connect other cities like Cuneo, Asti, Vercelli, and Novara. And a few years ago, we just started with the high-speed train between Torino and Milano, and that takes about 45 minutes. There are a lot of people that live in the city of Turin, but they work in Milan because Turin has a lot less expensive homes, and it's very well connected, and it's a smaller town to live in. A lot of people like it. You can also reach Torino or Turin by private car. You can fly into Milan and then take a private car into Turin. It might be a little bit more expensive, but definitely very convenient. When is the best time to go to the region of Piedmont? I would say between April and the end of June. Even middle of June is probably better. And then September through to the end of October, middle of November. In the summer, it's very hot, and in the winter, it's very humid and cold. When do you need to book also? Well, it depends if you're planning to go in the months of September and October when the wines are being harvested, or during festivals, or during special occasions in the city of Turin, like the chocolate festival or the slow food festival, as well as the Terra Madre, or if you go into smaller towns like Alba, right here in the Langhe, or Bra, which is right here as well, BRA. When they have their cheese festival, the city is fully booked up. So I would say at least a year in advance. Where is the best place to stay in Piedmont? Several. Again, it really depends if you stay in the bigger towns. I would suggest at least 4 to 5-star hotels. Some of the bigger towns can have iffy hotels if you stay in 3-star ones. Try to avoid, to this day, being close to the train station. Turin has a very ethnic community around the train station. Very interesting to some people because that's where you really find the best restaurants and the international fusion to the area, but some older clients especially might not find it as safe. So I would say boutique hotels with charm, chain of hotels in the big cities, and tend to avoid bed and breakfast unless you really are using a tour operator or somebody that has been there before and can tell you everything about it. Also remember that if it's a friend telling you about it, you really need to understand or observe if the friend has the same style that you do. And I can tell you many stories about it, but I won't stay right now and focus on the stories. In the smaller towns like Alba, Bra, La Morra, Monforte d'Alba, which is areas, and I'm going to go back to this slide, the areas right here, the wine areas, I would suggest to stay in the center of town, especially if you don't have a car, and especially if you're going to be taking a private driver and guide for day trips, because at night you want to be able to walk around and go to restaurants. If instead you have a rental car, which I forgot to mention earlier, that's another mean on transportation. If you're going to have a rental car, then you can stay in any of the smaller villages in the wine region. Always avoid a car in the main towns because you won't find parking, you could get a ticket, and it's really not necessary. So, boutique hotels in the smaller towns, villas, country homes, and sometimes agriturismos, which are those hotels that are closer to the land. Sometimes they produce olive oil, not in Piedmont because we don't have any olive oil trees really because it's too cold, but wineries, they might have hazelnut trees. So where they produce some sort of land items, then I would suggest that you stay in agriturismos too. You really need to know your client. So you need to listen to your client and understand if they are higher end clients. In this case, Piedmont has like a handful of 4 to 5 star hotels in the countryside that are good for these type of clientele. If not, we have a lot of bed and breakfast and agriturismo for the medium to low end category. What is there to discover in Piedmont? Well, many things. It is a region that is good for people that have been to Rome, Florence, and Venice. Sometimes it's for those people that have already been to Tuscany and are looking for another wine and lush region with culture as well. Remember that Piedmont is good for history lovers, so people that are interested in the First World War, Second World War, but especially for people that are interested in palaces, that love France, that love wines. And the reason why I'm saying about France is because the royals of Piedmont, the Savoy, that's what the family name is, the Savoy royals that reigned the region for many, many centuries, were really fond of France. And they were copying all of the palaces of France. So they were interested in the architecture, they were interested in their lifestyle, in the food. So a lot of the foods of Piedmont are influenced again by France. We have lovely cheeses, we have wonderful resemblance to, again, the mannerism and the wines of France, but also our dialect, which is a language, as many of you know. Italy has 20 regions and we all have 20 dialects. Each region has its own dialect. Then there is the main language, which is Italian, but the dialect of Piedmont is very similar to French. That's why a lot of the schools in this region learn French first and then English. And a lot of people understand when, or the French understand sometimes, how Piedmontese older people speak in their dialect. So it's very easy for them to communicate. Again, we said it's excellent for food and wine lovers. The slow food movement started in Piedmont by Carlo Petrini, which is the founder. He decided to start the movement after he recognized in the 1980s that Rome had its first McDonald's. So he went against it and created the slow food movement. So the art of eating slow and the art of enjoying the food, not only getting filled by the food. So that's the whole mentality, preserving the good foods, preserving the extinct foods, and actually help those farmers to become well known in the territory and beyond with those foods that are going away. It is also excellent, the region is also excellent for mountain lovers, both in the winter and in the summer. Especially older people go to the mountains in the summer to get away from the heat and the humidity in the main cities. And young people go to the mountains in the winter because we have wonderful ski slopes. Some of the areas might be Sestriere and the Alps around the French region, miles and miles long of ski slopes. I know that personally too because that's where I used to go skiing as a kid. So it's a wonderful region for all these kind of people. Again, I wouldn't send anybody to Piedmont unless they have visited Rome, Florence, and Venice, or if they combine the region with these three cities. The main city in Piedmont is Turin, or Torino, as the Italians would know it. It was the first capital of Italy because the Savoy kings and queens resided there. They made Italy the first capital of Italy in 1861. That's where everything started. That's where the union of the region started. After Turin, then Genoa, then Florence, then Bologna, and finally Rome became capitals of Italy in its years. The reason why the royals kept going south is because they kept getting away from the invasions of the French and other populations. So that was their strategy, to run away. And it kind of kept the style of the Italians in the wars during the year, to run away from what was scary. But that's another story again. So Turin is wonderful because it is basically at the base of the mountain and the hill. So that's where also the name Piedmont comes from. It's at the foot of the mountain. Okay, so the city of Turin is very humid, lovely in the spring and in the fall, but very humid in the summer and very humid in the winter. So there is a river that runs through it, as you can see in the top picture. Hopefully you can recognize that the lights reflect in the river. The river is called Po, P-O. It runs from Torino to Venice, and it goes out in the sea in Venice. But that monument right there, top left, it's called the Mole Antonelliana, and it's the monument that recognizes the city of Turin. Turin is a beautiful town with full of walking passages underneath porches, so you will never, the royals built the city with a concept that nobody will ever get wet by walking in the main streets and in the city center of Turin. They did it for the women, they did it for the horses, and people that would ride the horses, so that there would always be a place for people to meet other people. Okay. A lot of other towns are like Turin, but again, because they were influenced by the Savoy. So you will find the same kind of city center in Bologna and in Florence. But my point to this was, I kind of lost track, I apologize, is that the city center is beautiful. It has been polished up after the 2006 Winter Olympics. That's when the city recognized really that Turin is a beautiful town. So they decided to kind of push themselves away from the Fiat car factory. And this is the main reason why Turin was never discovered, because we were always shadowed by the industrial big thing of Fiat. So nobody really went to Turin because they thought that the only thing we had was the Fiat factory. Okay, we're also very well famous for the coffee culture. Like I mentioned earlier, we have very good coffee roasters in the city, but the main one is the Lavazza Coffee Company. We have a drink, which is the one that you see there in the picture, called bicerin, which is mixed with coffee, with chocolate, and a little bit of a liquor. Okay, Some people like it, some people don't, but it's a typical drink called again bicerin. Then we have the chocolate. Chocolate started to be mixed with the hazelnuts when there was a lack of chocolate during some of the wars. So people decided to mix the chocolate to make it last longer with the hazelnuts. Underneath, the last picture is from the Italian excellence store called Italy, Eataly. And some of you might know Italy from the Italy store in New York and the Italy store in Chicago. The very first Italy store started in the hometown of Turin. It's only 2 blocks away from my house, so I'm definitely lucky when I go home. It used to be a vermouth company that was left abandoned for many years. The vermouth company that was in the building is the Carpano brand. And the founder of Italy decided to refurbish the building and put Italy in there. It is a wonderful store. I would definitely suggest anybody that is in Turin to go there at least for dinner. Other smaller cities that are very famous in Italy, I'm sorry, in Piedmont, against the food and wine lovers, are the city of Alba, Bra, Barolo, Barbaresco, Asti, and Cuneo. Okay, Alba is very famous for the truffle festival that they have every fall. Bra is very famous for the cheese festival. Barolo is the name of a wine, and that's where the wine gets the name from the Barolo town. And the same for the Barbaresco town. It gave the name to the Barbaresco wine, which, by the way, is one of my favorite wines. It's definitely a great, great red. Asti is the town where we can find the Palio. Okay, the Palio happens every fall in the city of Asti. It is a medieval tradition, and it only happens once a year. It is different, not different. It's the same basically as the Palio in Siena in Tuscany, but the one in Siena happens twice a year. So Asti has the tradition of the Palio, but also the tradition of the dinner before the Palio, the night before the Palio. It has the costume parade. Very, very lovely, but definitely gets booked up quickly. And if you think that you cannot get tickets for this particular event, always consider us. Cuneo is a wonderful town. It has one of the best markets in their main square every Tuesday, but it's a wonderful town because it is a blend between the bigger city of Turin and the smaller cities of Alba and Bra. And what I mean is that they have the food culture and the wine culture, and they have the porches where people walk around. Again, very, very wealthy town, and not so big, but not so small. So it's definitely a pleasant town to live in. And then again, we have the Alps. We have many, many fortresses around the city of Turin and in other cities in the Langhe. Lovely towns to walk around. The Romans used these towns a lot to protect themselves from invasions. The locals keep it as their gem. They don't really like to make it bigger. And the young people use the Alps, obviously, for skiing. There is a lot to do for everybody in the region, but more than anything, once you go to the region of Piedmont, you realize that it is such a preserved gem that you will wonder why it was never on your radar. Okay, so that's why we want you to know about it. People are wonderful once they get to know you and they get to trust you. People open up to you and want you to have a great time. They invite you into their home. They make you feel like if you're part of their family. And they're people that are very aristocratic. They look good. They usually tend to dress very well. Especially in the city of Turin, we used to have a lot of smaller manufacturer of, shoes and scarves and dresses. A lot of men used to be tailors because it was a really important profession to be in. And then when in the 60s, the car manufacturer brought many people from the south to come and work, all these smaller artisans kind of went away and went to work as well in the factory because that's what would bring more money. Nowadays, we think that the artisans are necessary and they're coming back because we like to preserve definitely what used to be important for the region as well as Italy in general. I want to thank you so much for your attention during this webinar. Please send me comments about it at laura@lauramasonitravel.com. I want to hear everything you learned or any comments that you might have in order for us to become better at it. Don't forget there is going to be a second webinar that you can take at your own pace about the foods and definitely taste and sight of the region. And then again, there is going to be a third and last webinar about itineraries for the region. So please stay tuned, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good day, and again, thank you.